This is the Best or Worst Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Koji Stephen Sakai and M. Martin Mapoma.
This is the Best or Worst Podcast, and this is episode number 75. I can't believe it's 75. This is crazy. Our society is so focused on celebrity, we sometimes forget that regular people lead interesting lives too. Best or worst moment of your life? Host Koji Stephen Sakai.
That's me.
And M. Martin Mapoma, that is me, are here to let your story out. We put people on the spot. What are you going to hear? It could be funny. It could be poignant. It could be sad. You'll know when we know. Best or Worst Podcast is a twice-weekly podcast. On Tuesdays, which is 2 days ago, we get to know our guests. And on Thursdays today, we find out their best or worst moment.
And today we have Ken Fong, who we talked to last episode. So if you didn't hear the story, you definitely need to hear it because it was really great. We talked about his podcast. We talked about his journey. So today we get to ask people, or today, this episode, we ask people about their best or worst moment. And I'm going to cheat because Ken in his email to me said he has a really great worst moment. So we're gonna
and you know what? Even after hearing his story, I definitely want to hear the worst because I can't imagine what that is.
So Ken, we would love to hear your worst moment. And just as a caveat, one of the things we do tell our guests is, not to come up with the things that are easy. Like when your daughter was born would probably be one of your best moments, we know, or
that's not a worst moment.
No, best moment. Sorry, best moment. Best moment. Those are the kind of best moments that like everybody kind of knows, or the death of somebody that, like our parents, obviously that's a terrible moment. But if those moments if there's something different or something that's different about those moments, then those are fine. But we ask people to dig a little bit deeper than that. So Ken, what is your worst moment?
Yeah. I'm guessing out of all your 75 episodes, no one has ever told a worst moment like this one.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Ooh, I don't know. It's been good.
Okay. Well, I hope so. So if your guests listened to the previous episode, they know that I was a pastor for almost 40 years. And one of the things that I was always trying to do informally is to connect like people. We had a pretty big church. And so if someone was going through something, they felt that they were all alone, the only one, right? So we had this tragedy happen in the church about 10 days before Christmas. And this family of three got in a car accident, and the father and mother, husband and wife, got killed, and they left their 7-year-old daughter alive in the back seat. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And the wife actually was a VP for Buena Vista Television. And so I remember when we had the funeral for two people, right? The husband and wife, father and mother, with this surviving little girl. I mean, Disney came to our church campus and they brought giant, in those days, big screen TVs. It wasn't flat screens. So we had like 1,000 people show up for this thing. Okay. Funeral's over, really hard. Then I get a phone call. Someone I don't know, it's this woman. And apparently she worked with the deceased wife. And she said, I'm not religious, but I was really moved by my friend's death and the service. Would it be okay if someone like me actually came to church with my daughter? And I'm like, someone like you, what does that mean? And she says, well, I'm the other woman in an affair. And my 7-8-year-old daughter is the love child out of this affair. And I'm just wondering if someone like me could come to your church. Okay. And so I said, very sincerely, I said, well, the way I understand the Bible is we all got scarlet letters. Okay. So whether, I have the same letter as you or not, it don't matter. I said, if you're feeling uncomfortable, I'll just make everyone wear their letters the day you come, and then it'll just look like the alphabet came, right? And so she started coming. Okay. So I didn't get to know her that much, but I knew this much about her. I knew what she looked like. And there she is. All right. So now a couple Sundays go on. She goes to pick up her daughter coming out of Sunday school class. And here comes a woman that I've known for years who had a child out of wedlock. Okay. Now that child is much older and stuff like that. But I thought right away, my brain's going, here's the way to connect two people who feel like they're probably the only ones in this church who have a similar sort of experience. So I brought this member over and I said, hey, I want you to meet so-and-so. Hello. And I said, part of her story is she's the other woman in this affair. Okay. Well, unbeknownst to me, my member had brought a friend that day, another woman. And she kind of heard what I was saying. So she walks over to us and says, excuse me, is your name, to the first one, is your name thus? Because I'm the wife of the man you're having the affair with.
Oh, no. Oh, that's terrible.
Oh.
Okay. So I don't know if this qualifies as worst moment. It was certainly the most awkward moment I've ever experienced in my time. Oh my God.
Oh
okay. And so I'm like, are they gonna get into a fist fight? Whatever. And so the husband who wasn't at our church, didn't go to our church, like he hadn't made it a secret. Like most people in the JA community, they know the husband, he's pretty prominent, and they know that he's having this affair. So the wife knew about it. She just never thought she'd meet the other woman. Okay. Oh. And so to the eternal credit of the maligned wife, she didn't blow up. She wasn't, happy, but she said, look, I'm a Christian. You're not a Christian, but because of the death of your friend, you're here at church because you're trying to figure kind of the spiritual side of life. So this church has 2 worship services. As long as I don't see you at the service that I'm coming to, I'm okay. Okay. And wow. I'm like, dang, that's like you. Ooh. Okay. So I'm bringing this huge sigh of relief. 2 days later, so this is actually working up to the worst part. Okay. I get a phone call from the husband who I've never met or talked to. The husband. Okay.
This is good.
And he goes, dude, I need to sit down and talk to you. Okay. So we went to Caro's and we're sitting there and he's reading me the riot act. He's like, I'm going to go to your denominational headquarters. I'm going to make sure that you are defrocked, kind of the equivalent of disbarred.
Yeah.
Because you broke professional confidentiality by saying in public that my mistress, was my mistress. And so he goes to church. He goes to this Japanese church this whole time. He's doing all this stuff. Now, the old me would have just folded like a bad piece of origami, okay? But the kind of more mature me, I look him straight in the eye and I go, wait a minute. You're the guy who's been having an affair for years and you've actually produced a love child and you're trying to say that I'm the bad guy. Okay, so I said, you can call whoever you want, but this is not coming down on me because it's on you.
No one's going to take his side, dude.
No
way.
Yeah.
He had some tires on him, too, to come to you, like, and you're like, dude, I don't even know you.
That's right. Yeah.
So he basically wanted to make sure that everybody knew now.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wow.
So, anyway, that's the story. I mean, I when you asked me to do this, man, I was like, that thing is in my Hall of Fame of wow. So if go ahead.
Did she stay in the church?
No. So I don't know why she eventually disappeared. And then the wife, she wasn't normally part of our church. She used to go to the church with her husband. I think eventually I knew some people that knew the mistress, and I think eventually he dropped her. I don't know if he provided any financial assistance to their daughter. I would love to ask the wife if she stayed with him. Like, I don't think this is the first and only time that he was going out on her. But that's not my problem,
Yeah. Wow. If I had known you back then, I would have said, Ken, don't say a word. Just no. There's no need to bond. There's no need to bond. Wow. That's so funny. Meet mistress. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just bad luck.
Now I'm super. I wish I knew who it was because, my position at Janum, I knew pretty much.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'll tell you off air. I'll tell you off air because this person is or was very prominent in the JA, even the J-Town community.
Okay.
And most people
Coach
knew.
Is thinking hard.
Yeah.
His mind is racing.
Well, you know what it reminds me of. Like I always think back to like especially with the whole election in 2016 and now, and they talk about Make America Great Again, and I always think about how like back in the day. I mean, if I couldn't even imagine anybody of my friends openly having affairs and having kids out of wedlock, like that to me would be like super super shocking to me. But like 20, like a while ago, that was like I wasn't normal, but it wasn't like people kind of pushed to the side, right? They're like, okay, that's just something that happens, kind of. And so it makes me really think about like, when was America great? Like, I feel like, I always feel like America's the best now. I mean, minus the what's going on, all the political stuff, but in terms of just like our morals. I mean, a lot of times I just worry about. A lot of times that's why I look I really like I think that the next generation is always the best generation because they're growing, they're changing, they're becoming better, they're learning from our mistakes, my mistake, my generation's mistakes, the generations before us, and they're always becoming better people. Like I talk to these kids and they have no issues with trans people, they have no issues with gay or lesbian. I mean, like when my son's preschool, there was a transgender kid and like he doesn't care. And when we read a book about transgender, I thought it was going to be a big deal. He's like, oh, it's just like whatever, and I was like, yeah. And then it didn't matter. Whereas like for me, reading, if I was a kid and read something about transgender, I would have like been like, that's so crazy, I don't even know what that means, right? Like I don't, that's weird, I don't understand it. And like I don't know, I'm sort of rambling, but it really made me think about a lot of those things. Do you think about that moment still? I mean, does it still resonate with you?
I if I put myself back in that very moment when the wife walks up, who I don't know, right, and says, excuse me, I think you're the other woman, right? What was going through me? Oh my God, my mind was going bazillion miles an hour. Right?
Oh, I can only imagine.
I was like, what? Right? And almost in deference to the offended husband, part of me was kind of berating myself internally. Kind of like, why didn't I hear the Martin voice? Right? It's like, let's just keep people encapsulated. Don't, But I had so much, and the success is not the good word, but so many positive outcomes where I would connect you. Oh, you don't realize that this person also is a recovering addict, right? And so you're not the only one, right? So I don't.
Still a bad idea.
Well, in the end, I don't regret it, right? Yeah. If anything, I got to confront the husband.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder. I wonder if God was speaking through you. I mean, in a lot of ways, like for the wife, she might have known about it, but seeing it is a whole different deal.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's true.
And I think for the mistress, even too, for her to see this other woman, probably it had to do something to her. And I wonder if it was all meant to be at that moment, at that time, in kind of, you were kind of this vessel for it, even though it's totally uncomfortable situation. I mean, I don't know, like it's hard to know, obviously, without being God, right? But for me, like I could see it being like a really catharsis moment for everybody. Like it's this kind of, because it's one of those things where it's like you could easily excuse things when things are happening and you don't see it, right? But then the moment it's in front of you, it's like I can't ignore it anymore. Maybe seeing this woman for her and maybe for the other way as well, changes something.
Now, see what you just said, Koji, sounds exactly how a director would make that scene. Right?
Yeah. Well, because in film story wise, everything is like there's a meaning to everything.
Yes.
But I also think, as a non-religious person, but who has faith, I think that there is reason for everything, and and I could see it, that could be, because I put myself in both shoes as the aggrieved husband, and seeing the other man, it would make me feel like I need to do something. I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
Coach, you'd fight.
Well, I'd probably fight, but also I just feel like this can't go on. Even if I was like willing to look away from it for a while, like this would be I can't. This is it. That's it, right? Or vice versa. If I was the one cheating, or with, I would be like, this ain't cool. Like I could tell myself enough things when I'm not seeing the husband or seeing the other person. But the moment you see the kid and you see other people, you start to think like, nah, like I can't wreck a family. I can't, like that's not me. But if you never see them, then it's like whatever. You're not really, you could talk yourself into ignoring it,
Well, it's that whole veil of isolation. As long as you're isolated from the actual people you're hurting, everything's cool. But when you're confronted with them, it's a whole different,
and
it's a whole different animal.
That's actually, I was just having a conversation with somebody about how, like, I watched a show called What Would You Do, which is like show on ABC, where they do like these pranks.
I've seen that show. Yeah.
I love the show because one of the things that taught me was that Like and a lot of times the racism that people like, they stop the racism when they see it in front of them, because inherently they don't believe it.
Yeah.
But then if you ask them about Black people in general or Black Lives Matter, they'll say like that's wrong or that's racist. But it's really interesting that when it's theoretical, they have one opinion, but when it's right in front of them, they have a totally different opinion. You know, like during the 2016 election, they'd ask people about Muslims coming in the country and bombing them, and they'd interview people from this small town in Montana, and they're totally deathly afraid of Muslims. But no Muslims are coming there, no Muslims live there, and no one's going to bomb them. But I'm sure I could 100% honestly say if a Muslim moved it next to them, they wouldn't have a problem with them. But in theory, they have a problem with them.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway.
It's hard to hate. It's hard to hate someone when you see them every single day.
Yeah, or right in front of you, right? And I don't know. Anyways, this has been really, really fascinating.
Yeah, it has.
That was a really like, I didn't know what to think when you said the worst moment. I was just trying to think of like what kinds of things you would say. But Ken, how can people follow your podcast?
Oh, thank you. They can go to aapodcast.com or any of the podcast apps and look for Asian America, the Ken Fong podcast. Like I said, we typically we put up an episode every week. And it's really to give Asian American, I call them culture makers and culture shapers, either in the past, the present, or up and coming, a chance to tell their stories and talk about the things that they're producing. And I just love, hopefully your listeners and you guys can tell, I love being in good conversation. It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
That's what podcasts are all
really
about.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Sure.
Good. Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Martin, and we really appreciate you coming on these 2 episodes. It's been great. So please, everybody, please rate, review, subscribe to our podcast, and please come back next Tuesday to find out who we're going to be talking to next. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, guys.